Welcome to our first lab. So hopefully you'll go through the labs in this order. But you can see each lab starts with an objective of what we're trying to do. So we're looking at using CISCO iOS to validate the configurations at the end. Lab purpose. We look at the level also. They get progressively more difficult as they get along. Labs should all be broken down into either CCNT or CCNA. This is our topology. So you can see it's pretty simple. We've got two switches here connected with fast Ethernet 0/1, and the tasks are broken down into various steps. So we're configuring in this one ports Ethernet 0/5 to 0/8, and then we're putting them in the VLANs as indicated in the diagram. We also have a solution. Obviously when you begin you'll be looking at the solution to work out how to do the configurations, but as you go along in the labs hopefully you won't be looking. Now I've actually used Packet Tracer for this lab. I'm going to mix things up a little bit in the video, so I'll be using live equipment and Packet Tracer, but just for convenience I'm using Packet Tracer because it's such a simple lab. So we're in user mode. In order to get into privilege mode, which is the # we type enable, you can shorten it to EN. First command is show VLAN brief. Now this is actually the last command we put in, but I wanted to show you first of all that we have VLAN 1, which is the default VLAN, and every single interface is actually in VLAN 1 by default. We have some of the VLANs that are left or pre-configured for us, which we won't be using. Now config, we want to do some configuration, so our only option on this switch is config T. You have other options on a router. I've shortened it to conf space T, which should work. Remember in the exam you're using a router emulator, so not all of the shortened commands will work, but something like conf T should work. Now I'm going to change the host name of the switch. I'm just going to shorten that to host space, and then I'm going to put the host name in, which is SW1, which is short for switch 1. And you can see it's changed the host name from switch to SW1, which is short for switch 1. You'll do this on a live network as well. Usually you won't leave all your devices as the standard host names. Now we're going to configure a VLAN, and the command is VLAN. I'll type space and then question mark, and it's given me the available VLAN numbers to configure. As you can see in the show VLAN command at the top there, some of them are pre-configured. So I've configured VLAN 10, and you can see the prompt has changed to config-VLAN. Now I'm going to issue a show command, but because I'm in configuration mode I'm going to write do in front of it. So do space show VLAN brief, and you can see VLAN 10 has been configured. Now that wasn't there before, and I'm going to configure a name for the VLAN in capitals, and if I issue if I press the up arrow, actually it shows you all the previous commands, and you can see VLAN 10 has been changed now, and it's been given the name sales, which is more meaningful to us as a network admin than just leaving it as the default number. So I'm going to configure the other VLANs now. I've exited out and gone back to config mode. You don't have to do that, as I'll show you in a moment. You could actually just type VLAN, the number, press enter, and then give it a name. And the switch will know because it's using iOS, the same as CISCO routers, that you actually just wanted to go back into VLAN configuration. So I'm going to configure the VLAN numbers as per the requirement. And then the last command is do show VLAN brief, and you can see the 4 VLANs have been configured and they've got their names. Now there's no interfaces put into the VLANs at the moment, so this is the other part of the challenge. I've typed EXI. I could have typed EX just to exit to the previous configuration mode. And I'm going to put the interfaces now into the correct VLANs. So interface fast, which is short for fast Ethernet. You don't normally type out the interface names in full. is 0/5 switch port mode. I've got three choices: access, dynamic and trunk. It's normally left as dynamic by default by the iOS, but we want to change it to switch port mode access. So this is hard set it now to an access port. Now if you're using a layer 3 switch, you need to actually tell it to become a switch port, a layer 2 switch port, which means you just type the command switch port and then press enter. Alright, so switch port access VLAN 10. This is actually putting the port into VLAN 10. And we're going to do the same commands for the other interfaces. So by default this is a 2960 model switch, so it won't be layer 3 capable, so we don't actually just put the switch port command in and press enter. Otherwise, if you do have a layer 3 switch like a 3560 for example, 3550, you'll need to enter the switch port command and then press enter, and then the other two commands. So same commands for all the other interfaces. Fast Ethernet 0/5 to 0/8. They each go in a different VLAN. Once you've configured these commands several times over, you'll just get used to it and you won't have to look at the solutions anymore. So these are the commands that are in the solution. Final configuration command, or the verification command, is show VLAN brief. So show VLAN brief, and you can see the correct VLANs have been configured and our interfaces are now in the correct VLANs as per the diagram. So we've actually completed this lab and all the requirements that were set out in it. So a real easy lab to start with. Obviously they get harder as we go along. But that's the end of the lab. Thanks for watching.